This is the Wintrust Business Lunch. I'm G, joined now by Bryant M. Greening, the co-founder of Legalrideshare. Hi, Bryant.
Hi there. How are you?
Fantastic. It seems with the start of the new year, all we've been talking about is legal pot and this tax that's on Uber and Lyft.
Two of the biggest stories in Chicago.
Absolutely. So let's break down these fee increases. Let's talk about who it affects and what it means for neighborhoods. And John Williams actually mentioned something that I needed to ask you about as well. What is included in terms of mapping out the area of the loop and what's considered downtown?
Sure. Well, there are specific areas in the downtown region, which is basically what you would consider to be the loop in the north side. The biggest increases in the fares are going to be to that specific area during 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. rush hour. That fee is going to increase to $3, which is substantial when you think about what it costs to take a ride during that period of time.
So the $1.25 tax that's added on to a single passenger trip, that's a flat tax for anywhere in the city?
Correct. So there's an additional $1.25 that's going to be for citywide solo trips. If you want to sit in the car by yourself, you're going to be charged that extra fee. Now, shared rides actually have decreased in tax by 7 cents. So there's a savings there for people who are willing to share.
Which makes sense because all of this is geared towards lessening congestion.
That's correct. So we've seen congestion really increase over the past few years. When Uber and Lyft came to town, they put many more cars on the streets. We've seen a 309% increase in the number of TNP, which are the Uber and Lyft cars that are in the downtown areas on weekdays between 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. in the past 3 years. So things have gotten much more congested very quickly.
And a portion of the additional revenue that is being collected is going towards fighting congestion or helping public transportation?
Yeah, so they're expecting that $40 million will be generated annually with these new taxes, and a portion of that money is going to be dedicated to improving public transportation. So one of the biggest issues that we've seen over the past few years is that ridership on the CTA is going down. More people are taking Uber and Lyft instead of it. So CTA needs to make improvements and draw people back into its system.
So I know it just started, so it's hard to tell what the effect is exactly. But what have you been hearing in terms of drivers and from aldermen and neighborhoods that are affected and also, the companies?
Well, there's multiple players here. When we look at the community as a whole, people who use Uber and Lyft as a primary mode of transportation, they're obviously concerned. We have gotten used to rides being pretty cheap and being able to hail a ride on demand and know that we're going to get there without breaking the bank. That's about to change. A $3 increase is substantial, particularly when most people are using, not most people, but when many people are using Uber and Lyft to get to and from work, that can add up quickly. The driving community is extremely concerned because they're worried about the impact that it's going to have on demand. Many people have uprooted their lives, quit traditional jobs, and have started to work in the rideshare world. That was with the understanding that people were going to be continuing to use the platforms. People were going to continue to request rides regularly and every day. They're concerned that this is going to change, and there might be fewer rides to go around, which means less money in their pocket and fewer opportunities.
So, Brian, I take an Uber or Lyft every day. It's cheaper for me than owning a car, paying for parking. And for me, I'm going to think twice about taking an Uber downtown. I mean, I tend to take it more in the wintertime because it's just a little harder to deal with the CTA. But I do believe that this is going to affect drivers and how many people are going to use Uber or Lyft.
That's really what we're anticipating. I don't think there's any question that it's going to be a positive in terms of congestion fixing. I mean, we have seen many new Uber and Lyft drivers come out because this is an area ripe for business. People have been using this service very often, and it's so convenient and so cheap. They've just put it. They've made it their regular mode of transportation. They're replacing the CTA with Uber. I think a lot of people are going to head back to the CTA, and they're going to say, I can't afford to continue using these apps in the way that I once did.
Now, will this help cab drivers? Will this give them a leg up now inside these neighborhoods that are subjected to the $3 upcharge?
It may. However, cab fares have traditionally been higher than Uber and Lyft to start. That was one of the reasons why Uber and Lyft were able to come into the market and dominate the way that they have. I don't think that people are going to be willing to pay this amount of money to anybody, whether it's Uber, whether it's a cab company. I think they're going to be drawn either to the shared rides in the rideshare companies or back to public transportation.
Got it. We're running out of time, but just really quickly, and we'll have you back on to talk about this because I talk to my drivers when I am in an Uber or a Lyft, and it seems to be there's some confusion as to what type of coverage in terms of car insurance they need to have. We'll have you back on to talk about it, but just really quickly, what should drivers have?
The best advice I can give is make sure that you have collision coverage in your personal auto policy. Many drivers are unaware, and the companies do a terrible job of explaining this, but if you don't have collision coverage in your personal auto policy, you're not going to be covered during certain events that occur on the app. That means if you cause an accident, your car is totaled, you might be in a position where you lose the vehicle, you can't get it repaired, all of a sudden you've lost your means of income, and literally you can't pay the bills. So if there's one thing that I can tell drivers to do immediately, it's to get on the phone with their insurance agent and add coverage if they don't have it already.
Sometimes I've been in an Uber or a Lyft where they've rented the vehicle from the company. Are they covered if they rent the vehicle, or do they still need to check in? I mean, what if they don't own a car in everyday life?
So when you rent from the companies, it does come with insurance, and you should be adequately protected there. But in that regard, you don't have your own vehicle. You're much more limited in your abilities to use the vehicle in certain aspects. So insurance is taken care of in that regard, but there are other issues that you've got to deal with that come with rentals.
Bryant Greening, we're going to check back in with you as this plays out. I'm going to be, I think all of us are very curious to see how this is going to affect drivers and riders and, how much business neighborhoods get in terms of the neighborhoods that are affected by the $3 fee. So thank you so much, Bryant, and we'll have you back on soon.
Thanks for having me.